resort, and we'd be sitting out hunting in the mornings and sitting talking, and he would always talk about business. I remember one morning I was looking way off in the distance, and there's these ducks like 2 miles away. I'm like, Grandpa, call them in. He goes, those are the wrong ducks. I'm like, how can you tell? Like, I'm not even sure if they are ducks. They're so far away. He's like, well, they're in the wrong formation, and they're flying too low to the water, and their wings are flapping the wrong way. Those are fish ducks. The ones that we're looking for are coming from over here, and they're in a different formation. I'm like, how do you know this? He said, I'm so clear on what I'm looking for that I can tell from a mile away. And when you're looking for great employees, you need to know the behavioral traits you're looking for, and you need to be able to tell from a mile away. So what behavioral traits do you look for in your best employees? Do you have a list of them? Do you teach people how to find them? Do you have a common definition that everyone in your organization can share? As an example, at College Pro Painters, when we were looking for the 800 franchisees, they had to be high in leadership attainment, tenacity, introspection, interdependence, fundamental ability, and instrumental ability. We could define all those 7. Tenacity was the dog-like work ethic to get over, under, or around any obstacle put in one's path. If you asked anyone the definition of tenacity at College Pro Painters, they would repeat it verbatim. And they could give you 5 questions that we would ask in a job interview to be able to probe, to give someone a rating on a bell curve of 1 through 5 as to where they actually fell. 30 or 40% of the people could get a 3 out of 5, 20% could get a 2 or a 4 out of 5, 10% could get a 1 or a 5 out of 5. By the way, I explain this in the book Double Double that you've got. It's a really easy system, but if you don't have that system in place, how could you possibly have a great team? It starts with what behavioral traits you're looking for. Next thing I learned about the duck blind is you put decoys out to attract ducks into your blind. What are your decoys? Your decoys are your office and your dress code, your company website, things that attract people in. When you go back to your office tomorrow, drive in the driveway and stop and look at your building and say, am I attracting people? Am I pushing them away? When you walk in the front door, ask yourself, am I attracting them? Am I pushing them away? When you walk through the office, do you have workstations that are this high like Dilbert made fun of 30 years ago? Or have you started to open up your office environment like we'll talk about? And are you still wearing a shirt and tie? It's one of the most kind of standoffish, corner office things that is not working anymore. IBM got rid of that dress code 25 years ago. Right? Vulnerability, the open neck, is actually where it's going. And I'm not saying wear ripped jeans and sweatpants, but if you want to attract people into your organization, you have to know what's attracting them. We know we dress up to dress for success, right? We all read the book. But is success really built the same way as it was 30 years ago? And then the last thing about the duck blind is when you shoot ducks, you're using a shotgun. When you're looking for A players, you use a rifle. So if you really want to go find the best A players, you got to have a couple of the search firms, and I have 2 or 3 of them on engagement. If you want their emails, I can introduce you. Give me a business card and write search on it. I'll introduce you. You won't know the names of the firms, but they literally can go and hunt the best employees, and they'll poach them. Great A players are easy to find. They work for the Inc. 500, Vistage members, YPO members, EO members, best companies to work for, top companies, Inc. 500, Fortune, whatever, right? They work, and they all have strong profiles on LinkedIn and Facebook. And if you drop them a note and say, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? They all go, sure, because they're about building their network. And as soon as they walk into our office, we got them. So if you're not using a search firm, you better make sure you've got your employees handcuffed. And if you really want A-level players, I suggest you actually use a rifle to go get them. Once you actually know if you've got the people with the behavioral traits, how do you find out who the best culture people are? We use a group interview. We bring 8 candidates in at the same time, put all 8 people at the same table, and we ask them a bunch of random questions. What do you do for fun? Everybody answers. What's the most stressful time in your life? Everybody answers. What's the biggest problem you've solved? Everybody answers. Favorite books, favorite TV shows? TV shows is a trick question. If you actually name TV shows, it's a black mark against you. We want people that are not watching reality TV. We want people that are out creating their own reality. So think about the culture that you're looking for. I asked Herb Kelleher again, how do you get all your employees to smile? We hire smiley people. Duh. It's not hard, right? Running business isn't hard. We make it difficult for ourselves because we don't think about in advance, what are we doing? Like Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. What are you looking for in those employees, and how do you find them? In the group interview, you're only looking for 2 things, culture and leadership. That's it. After I know that only 2 of the 8 can make it back, then I'll interview to see if you've got the skills. Last 2 questions in the group interview. If we were hiring 2 people, you plus somebody else, who else should we hire? Yeah, right? It's prisoner's dilemma. They don't know which way to go, but the strong people will actually sell you on hiring somebody else, and they've been listening the whole time, and they'll actually be able to convince you to hire someone else at the table. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'll bring in 2 of the 8 people to see if they actually have the skills. The last question I ask, how much money do you need to make this year? And how much money would you like to make 3 years from now? I need 100, I need 98, I need 97, I need 96.5, I need 110, but I'll work for 95. The truth comes out, and it drops your salaries by about 10%, and it's legal to ask that question in every state and province. Steve Jobs used to say he would show the wooden prototype of the Mac to employees, and he said if he didn't see the twinkle in their eye, he didn't bring them in for an interview to see if they had the skills, because he didn't care if they had the skills. If you're not vibrating when you read this painted picture, you don't get to come for an interview. We don't want to know if you have the skills unless you're vibrating the same way we are. Part of your culture fit are your core values. Core values should be limited to 5 core values. They should be short phrases, not single words. Single words are too confusing. One of the best examples I've ever seen for core values in an organization is College Pro. Deliver what you promise, respect the individual, pride in all you do. It's been the same for 30 years. It tests everything, and the test at College Pro Painters was this. If you're not willing to fire someone who breaks the core values, they're not core values. They're merely aspirational values. Right? You don't get to go to church and say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, I broke core values 7 times. Right? 12 Hail Marys, go back to work. It doesn't work that way. If you're breaking core values at work all the time, it's completely undermining the culture in the organization. Don't put them up on the wall as core values unless you're willing to fire people who break them. And you can also have a second set that are aspirational values, the things that we're going to strive towards, but the core values are the things that we will never, ever compromise. That's why you can limit it down to that 4 or 5. Once you know who the culture fit people are, we follow the systems from Top Grading. Brad and Jeff Smart's great program. They actually consolidated it down to a much easier book called Who. I'll consolidate it even further. Top Grading is this. If you're hiring a key people, what are the 5 or 6 things you have to know that they're going to get done over the next 2 years? And if they get those 5 or 6 things done, you'd have been thrilled at your decision to hire them today. So make a list. If you're hiring a director of marketing, what are the 5 main things he has to get done over the next 2 years? And then interview people to see if they've done it already. Not that they have the theory. Lots of people have read textbooks and blogs and watched videos, right? Theory, you don't want that. You want experience as well as the culture fit. The days of hire for attitude, train for skills are gone. That works if you want to grow by 7% a year. I'm good with that. But we did 6 years in a row of 100% revenue growth. 6 years in a row of 100% revenue growth. Okay? We actually would have won the Inc. 500 for fastest growing company, but we didn't qualify because we were Canadian. We had 16,400% growth over the 5-year period. That's growth. So if you want that kind of growth, you actually have to put the systems in place to get it. Here's the difference. Who uses a job description right now? Put your hand up. Okay, you should all use job descriptions. This doesn't cost you anything. It actually lays out the rules for the employees. Anybody here use scorecards? Not very many. Okay, this is why most of your organizations are growing so quickly. So here's the difference. Here's the difference between a job description and a scorecard. This is a job description for a great swimmer. A fast, strong swimmer, experienced with all strokes, competitive team player. Right? That's kind of what we all are looking for with our employees. Here's a scorecard, though. Someone who can win 3 or more gold medals in the Olympics across 4 or more strokes. Someone who can break world and Olympic records. Someone who can win records when swimming for team events. See the difference between a job description and a scorecard? A scorecard is very measurable, and if you're looking for someone who's done those things, it's very clear. Have you done them? Can you prove it? Okay, check. And then what were you like when you were doing those things? Those are the core values checks. You do the reference checks around those to see how they acted when they were doing the stuff that we need them to do. If you hire based on a job description, you get fast, strong swimmers who are experienced with all strokes, competitive team player. Woohoo! That gets you 7% growth. Scorecards is how you knock the cover off the ball. And it's very easy to put these systems and processes in place. It doesn't take an MBA to figure this stuff out. It's about raising the bar. Every time you bring another person into the company, they have to raise the average of the group. So what would Jack do? Arguably one of the top CEOs on the planet, CEO of General Electric. I was speaking at a conference about 4 years ago with his successor, Jeff Immelt, and I had a couple minutes to talk to him. And I said, what would Jack do? So he drew this diagram. He said every 6 months, Jack would take the names of his direct reports and he'd put their names in one of these 4 boxes. And then he would take the names of all the people who reported to his direct reports and he put their names in one of these 4 boxes. So on the y-axis was results, low results, high results. X-axis was values, low values, high values. What would Jack do if someone had low results, low values? Fire them. It's easy. How about if someone was in the very high right? Super high results, super high values. What would Jack do? Promote, maybe. What else? Give them more work. Pay them more. Handcuff them. Thank you. You'd handcuff them to the company. Right? You find a way to keep them in the company for at least 5 or 10 years. It's different for every single A player. For some, they want more equity, phantom stock, profit sharing, vacation pay, more autonomy. They want you to spin off a division and let them run it. They want you to buy a company and let them take over. They want more responsibility. They want visibility with the press. They want to be on the board. It's different. Don't put one program in place and think it handcuffs everyone. It doesn't. You handcuff people based on what's going to intrinsically satisfy them. What about if somebody's in the bottom right-hand corner? High values, low results. No. Everyone says that. Wrong answer. Jim, if you don't train them, you don't coach them. Jim Collins gave us the clue. Let's make sure they're in the right seat. Why would you bother training somebody if they're in the wrong seat? Just slow down for 10 seconds and ask yourself, are they in the right job? Maybe if you put them in the right job, they'd excel. We had a guy who was failing miserably. His job was to coach franchisees. He was terrible at it. He couldn't read. He was massively dyslexic. He was unbelievable. He was like a Renaissance man and everything else in life, but he was so massively dyslexic that his writing style was a reverse mirror image. So he couldn't read our 300-page operations manual. So he just made stuff up, and people followed him, which was good, except Boston, Chicago, Detroit. They were all doing it differently, depending on how many beer they'd had with Christopher. So we moved Christopher into a PR role. PR for us is phoning the media. We pick up the phone and we phone the media. We landed 6,000 stories about our company, 5,200 stories in 6 years. Christopher landed 800 of them on his own over 3 years by picking up the phone and saying, hey, do you have 2 minutes? I think I have a good story. And the media would say, sure, what is it? He's now the head of PR for Best Buy. Duh, right? You put him in the right seat, people excel. If we wanted to train and coach him, he just would have been average at his weaknesses. I got a French tutor when I was in grade 3. I'm still bad in French. I won a citywide speaking competition in grade 3, and no one ever got me a speaking coach. What a shame. Why do we get people to be good at their weaknesses? Put them in the right seat, let them excel. If they're in the right seat, show them where you need them to be, show them where you are, and coach them up that ladder. Now, what about if somebody's on the top left, high results, low values? What do you do with them? You fire them. You have to get them out of the company. The cost of keeping these wrong people is 15 times their annual salary. I'll tell you a quick story. I was sitting with a mentor one morning having breakfast. He said to me, is there anybody you know you have to fire? I go, yeah, I've got this guy, Tyler. He said, how long you known? I go, 6 months. He goes, why haven't you fired him? I started giving him all the lessons, reasons I hadn't fired him. He said, so basically, you're chicken? I went, yeah, pretty much. He said, when are you going to fire Tyler? This was a Tuesday morning, 7:30. I said, I'll do it by Friday. He shook his head. I said, fine, I'll do it tomorrow. He shook his head. I go, good, I'll do it today. He goes, good, what time? I said, I'll do it at 12 o'clock. I said, good, call me at 12:05. I'll be there for you because I know this is going to be hard, but you make sure you're there for Tyler. He said, every day for the last 6 months, you stole his spirit. You crushed a human being. You didn't have the confidence to act like a leader, and you destroyed a person by picking on him, excluding him, telling him all the stuff he's doing wrong. If you'd had the courage to fire him 6 months ago, you wouldn't have crushed him as a person. You need to go back out and mentor him until he's back on his feet because you failed as a leader. Crazy thing is, this guy over here smiling with the bald head looks so much like Tyler. It's been distracting me this whole time. So I used to get email messages and texts from Tyler saying thank you and hope you're well and love you. And 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, I had an email from him saying thank you for letting me go that day. Thank you for setting me free. 3 years ago, I got a phone call that Tyler had gone missing on a hike, and his body had never been found. We had a 7,700-hour search. This is why it was freaking me out. We've never found Tyler. I can look in the mirror because I know I did the right thing. I just wish I'd done it sooner. So here's what I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you one simple question. If you know you've got at least one or more people in your company that you have to fire because of results or values, then I'd like you to stand up. If you know you have one or more employees in your company that you have to fire because of results or values, I'd like you to stand up. We've got a whole bunch of chickens in the room. Look around the room. What I'd like you to do is tomorrow at noon, set them free. And if you don't do it tomorrow, stay standing. Stand up. If you don't do it tomorrow, what I'd like you to do is every day you're getting ready for work in the mornings, I want you to look in the mirror and think of Tyler. It's our jobs to set these people free. It's the right thing. You can sit down. You see, like, unemployment in San Diego goes up 5%. So you got the vision, you got the people. How do we get the environment going? If you've got photos like this in your office, your environment, your culture sucks. You got to get rid of this stuff. Let your walls talk. Put stuff up that makes the environment vibrate. Think about Google, right? Their environment. It's got to attract flies to honey. If you've got boardrooms that look like this, you have boring meetings, bored employees, no customers. Move on. We had a boardroom that looked, almost identical to this. It was called our vision control room, our blue sky room. One wall was this huge mural. The other two walls looked out at the ocean and the mountains. Get rid of your private offices. Every single person knows you're in there trying to figure out what Google is still, or trying to figure out Facebook, or trying to surf porn. Go connect with your people. Go sit in the office and around the people and connect with them. This is one of my clients' boardrooms. They like to bounce ideas around. It's a ping pong table. If you've got offices or boarding areas like this, you're not attracting people. This is the #1 company to work for in the UK. This is one of my clients. They're now called Achievers. Used to be called I Love Rewards. They got a $26 million offering from Sequoia. They ranked 3 or 4 times in a row as one of the top companies to work for in Canada. If you have offices look like this, you're killing people. This is a little bit much for me. This is at Google. This is I have attention deficit disorder, so I get nothing done. This is Red Bull's head office. They have a slide that goes from the 2nd floor down to the 1st. Another ping pong table to bounce ideas around in their lunchroom. Google, some of their workstations, more workstations at Google. Culture is not about the free lunch. It's not about, it starts again with vision and people. Then you get into all this cool stuff afterwards. So don't go and start putting the slides in and photos up around your office until you get the painted picture stuff done and the people stuff done. It's like building a house. You wouldn't go put in your cool cabinets and your Wolf stove and your Sub-Zero fridge on day one. You got to build the foundation and the walls and the electrical and the plumbing. Build your business the same way, and I cover all that for you in Double. Make sure your employees understand this stuff. This is a client that I coach called Canvas Pop. You can take pictures, upload them, they take the picture and stretch it out onto Canvas, and it gets sent to your office ready to hang. So you can have contests where your employees actually win and the photos get hung around the office, or company logos, company artwork. The last part of culture is around communication. Communication starts with your environment and also your website. Where do you think this photo appeared on a website? No, it's not from Zappos. Zappos is a big shoe company. I've been to their head office 6 years ago. Mind-blowing place. This is actually from the #1 company to work for in the UK. She's a VP of engineering. This is what her bio, this is her photo on the leadership team page. Hi, I'm Julia. I love shoes. I really love shoes. I have shoes for dancing. I have shoes for like hiking in the jungle, and I have rock climbing shoes. In fact, I love shoes so much that I have 2 closets filled with shoes. Oh, and I have my Bachelor of Engineering at Stanford and my PhD from wherever. She's got a PhD in engineering, sorry, from Stanford. Why? No one cares where you went to school. Nobody cares about all that crap. If you're putting stuff out, we want to connect and attract people. I don't want to talk to a suit, right? And with respect to everybody who's wearing a suit, you don't go home and put on a new shirt and tie to feel good, right? You don't wake up in the morning on Saturday to watch the game and put on a suit and tie. Go put on, I call it first date dress code. If you wouldn't wear it on a first date, don't wear it to work. Here's another example of communication. Who thinks that you communicate well with email or text messaging? Put your hand up if you're a good communicator with email and text messaging. Okay, that's horrifying, because we all do it, right? Let me show you how bad we really are. This is a 6-word sentence. I want to read it out loud. Put the emphasis on the first word. Go ahead. Read the sentence out loud. Put the emphasis on the second word. Read it again. Put the emphasis on the third word. Put the emphasis on the fourth word. Put the emphasis on the fifth word. Put the emphasis on the sixth word. How the hell do we think we're communicating clearly when we can't read a 6-word sentence properly? See, here's the problem. Communication in our office environment, if we don't do it correctly, is actually destroying the culture from the inside out. You need to have face-to-face meetings. You need to realize that you need to write in more condensed formats. By the way, Gen Y barely reads the subject line, let alone the body context. And if you're writing these paragraphs, no one's reading it all. At best, we're all getting about 100 emails a day, and we're reading them carefully 20% of the time. Write them shorter, write them more concise, but have some more face-to-face meeting, even if it's over Google Hangouts or Skype video, so you can actually have this interaction with people. Get together for those one-on-one meetings like Daily Huddle. Get to understand your employees' personal dreams and personal goals. I have all my employees write down the 101 things they want to do before they die. Their bucket list. They get 20 minutes to write it. Then they have to share it with everyone on their team. And I commit to make at least one of their personal goals happen within 90 days. Not necessarily by paying for it. Sometimes just by finding other people who want to do it. Get really curious about your employees. Get to know their insecurities, their fears, their dreams, their desires.